Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So when it comes to the wasted $175,000 on Sky Palace, there seems to be an impressive case of amnesia on the part of the entire Cabinet. We've heard two directly contradictory stories, and now a senior public servant has been dragged into the PC Party's sad little version of Game of Thrones. Meanwhile, accountability to Albertans is lost. So to the Premier, how can Albertans trust a Cabinet that can't even keep its story straight for a session of a mere 27 days?
Mr. Speaker, the fixation of this honourable member and others in the opposition is not a fixation that Albertans have. Albertans have been very clearly understood what has happened with respect to the federal building. They very clearly understood that mistakes were made. They very clearly understand that there is no residential component being built in the federal building. They very clearly understand that the federal building is a heritage building that will be very useful as a cornerstone of the capital area here in Edmonton, that it will be a signature building for civil servants, for a few MLAs, and for government. And it's a very important part of our future, as it is of our heritage.
Thank you. For supplemental.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. But you know what? Calling it a hotel or calling it an apartment, it means nothing. It was always planned as a luxurious hideaway for the former Premier, until it wasn't. So to the Premier, Albertans have had enough of these conflicting tales from self-interested politicians. One of your members of Cabinet, or caucus, is not giving us the correct information. Why won't you tell us which one that is?
Mr. Speaker, just because the honourable member says it so doesn't make it so. There's never been a luxurious accommodation. There is not accommodation. There will not be accommodation. There was a plan at one point in time to consider whether it might be appropriate to have some overnight space. That was killed as a bad idea. That was a bad idea. We're not going to build it.
Final supplemental.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, the timing of this outrageous project's cancellation is important because taxpayers are on the hook for almost $200,000 because of it. One claims he cancelled it in 2012, one claims he cancelled it in 2014, and if we assume that both are correct, why exactly, Mr. Premier, should Albertans trust a government that has to cancel a project over and over and over again? Should they believe you're incompetent or not believe you at all?
Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Finally, a decent question. You know, we have made mistakes, and we're fixing those mistakes. And one of those mistakes is having better controls on a project like this, that is a very complex project that involves the removal of blue asbestos, renovations of an old building, and very high costs for some of the planning processes. And we can do better on that for Albertans, and we will do better on that for Albertans.